Episode 4, A Castle in Captivity. 2 decades of being lived in exclusively by sloppy, untidy, low-level troops had not done Peach's castle much good. Its carpets, once bright red, were stained, wrinkled, and ripped, while many halls still bore evidence of the fire that had damaged much of the castle thanks to Mario and Bowser's fight on the rooftops. The ornate, antique furniture was, depending on how much use the soldiers found for it, either dusty and covered in cobwebs or chipped, stained, or damaged beyond repair. The troops of the Koopa Empire had no concern for the building's rich history and elegant charm. To them, it was simply a building far past its time, made drafty due to the holes in the roof that had never been repaired, and continuously suffering from plumbing issues. If Princess Peach, wherever she was, had returned to her former home that day, she probably would have threw a fit and chased the rowdy minions all the way back to the Koopa Kingdom. Unfortunately, though, there wasn't much chance of that happening anytime soon. The throne room of Peach's castle was one of the rooms in the building that got the most use. It was once a large, majestic chamber, with a long red carpet running over shining pink and white floor up towards a raised platform, where the princess' golden throne stood before a large window overlooking the sprawling mushroom plains. The throne was still there, however a lot of random bits of furniture from around the castle had also been moved into the room for the minions to lounge around on. The floor was covered with discarded cups and bones from a feast that had ended weeks ago, and smelt somewhat of mold. It was, to say the least, not a sight Princess Peach would have approved of. Boom Boom was a Koopa who had always considered himself worthy of a great deal more respect than he was given. For one, he was a great deal larger and more muscular than most Koopas, and had a more rounded face. He hadn't been the first one to draw comparisons to the dragon-like subspecies of Koopa the royal family belonged to, meaning, of course, that he was probably distantly related to the Emperor. Certainly that meant he deserved at least a small title. What was more, he had a whole lot of experience. He had actually fought Mario. Sure, he had to admit he had never really stood much of a chance against his skilled opponent, but that sure didn't mean anything to the troops in his garrison. As far as they were concerned, the only reason their great captain Boom Boom had lost was because of some dumb luck. And Boom Boom was inclined to keep it that way. Boom Boom lounged lazily upon the throne, resting his back on one armrest and his legs on the other. He sipped some Coca-Cola contentedly, all that remained of a delightful fast food dinner he had ordered for himself and his subordinates from the nearby Koopa village, a town which was doing much better than Toad Town these days, from what he had seen. He sighed, lazily looking over his minions, who were eating, joking around, or arguing with each other. He grinned, a large, stupid-looking smile. On days like this, Boom Boom often liked to pretend that he was the king. He was on the same throne Princess Peach and generations of rulers before her had ruled the kingdom from, after all. Yup, he was the king of the Mushroom Kingdom and his word was law. At one command, he could transform all of Toad Town into his own private paradise, complete with a huge golden statue of himself standing right on the roof of the castle. He could renovate this dusty relic from the past into his dream home. But that was a job for another day. This day, like yesterday, and the day before, and the day before that, was his off day. He deserved it, after contributing so much to Emperor Bowser's ultimate defeat over Mario thanks to him weakening the plumber up in all of their epic duels. Actually getting something done could come later. It was lunchtime. As Boom Boom enjoyed his fantasy while guzzling that delightfully spicy Coca-Cola, a green-shelled Koopa suddenly burst through the doors in a panic. Boom Boom sincerely hoped he'd ignore him. He was just about ready to start his third burger, and didn't want to be troubled by any petty issues. To his disappointment, however, the Koopa went right to the throne. "Captain! Captain Boom Boom, sir!" He saluted in a breath. Reluctantly, Boom Boom put down his Coca-Cola and straightened up on the throne. "Yeah, What is it? He asked, looking down at the Koopa and fixing him with a contemptuous expression.
It's Luigi, sir,
the Koopa announced, his blue eyes flickering around the room with agitation. Boom Boom leaned back on the throne and sighed. Luigi? Now who was that again? He ran the name through his memory. It took a while, since Boom Boom typically never bothered to remember anything. Yes. That was who he was. Mario's brother. He had never seemed quite as strong as Mario himself, although it wasn't like that mattered because he had always completely destroyed him in a fight regardless. Wasn't he a defeated wreck, wandering around the town like a hobo? Yeah, that was right. He had never gotten around to reporting him to High Command even though, as the younger Mario brother, he'd probably be at the top of the most wanted list if they knew he was alive. It didn't really matter. Keeping Luigi alive but under his thumb was a sign of his own superiority over his foe.
What about him?
He replied arrogantly.
Luigi might as well be dead. My mother's more of a threat to the Empire than he is. That's not exactly true, Captain,
the Koopa responded nervously.
Me and my pals. We were beating up this punk who got too close to the castle. You know, general procedure and all that, and then he beat us all. We never even stood a chance. I don't even think the fight lasted half a minute. Captain, this is serious business,
came a voice from beside the throne. Boom Boom turned to gaze at the speaker. It was Lieutenant Blue Shell, a boomerang bro and his right-hand man. Blue Shell was not exactly Boom Boom's favorite Koopa. He was the kind of person who actually wanted to get things done instead of putting it off for tomorrow, and, as such, was usually a party pooper. Boom Boom sighed audibly. Blue Shell had been wanting to report Luigi's existence to the Mushroom City administration for ages, as if he didn't know all the paperwork that would result in. Blue Shell had not been eating fast food like the rest of the minions gathered in the throne room. Rather, he fixed Boom Boom with a stern expression in his blue eyes.
We can't ignore this,
Blue Shell said seriously.
This is one of the Mario brothers we're talking about. This needs to go straight up to the governor. No, right up to Prince Bowser Jr. We're going to need to send in elite units to take this guy out. Tanks, battleships, bonsai bills. All of it. If we underestimate this guy we're going to be in more trouble than we can drag ourselves out of.
Boom Boom scoffed. As if the governor would be able to help. He had never even fought the Mario brothers before. As for Bowser Jr., the prince was probably busy. He was all the way in the Koopa Kingdom, doing ruler stuff. Besides, he already had enough glory. It was time for a real champion to shine.
We can deal with it ourselves,
he said casually, sipping some more of his Coca-Cola.
Haven't you heard the stories? I've beat M before and I can beat M again.
Blue Shell turned away.
If you're so good, we should have ruled the Mushroom Kingdom years earlier.
He spoke cynically.
I'll tell you one thing. I'm not sticking around to get my head stomped.
He left, not even bothering to salute his captain as he exited the room. Boom Boom glared at him for a bit, before waving his meaty orange hand to dismiss the still trembling Koopa who was in front of him. Then he lazily reached for the table next to him and grabbed one of the many still hot burgers that were lying there. He'd deal with Luigi later. As usual, today was his off day.